when I go to the judge and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm mentally ill. I don't know what's going on. I have a bipolar disorder. And what may I do? I left my medication in America. I don't know what's happening, Your Honor. Please help me. I am a psychopath. I plead mentally insane." And they say, "Okay, go home with a fine of $500. What is this gonna say?"
Johnny Somali, the streamer who thought chaos was a career path. For years, he built his identity around being the loudest, the most offensive, and the most impossible to ignore. What started as trolling turned into harassment. What started as edgy content turned into cultural disrespect. And what started as internet fame has now turned into real-world consequences. Because today, Johnny isn't just banned from platforms. He's banned from countries. He isn't just disliked online. He's being hunted down in real life, slapped with charges, and locked in detention centers. The self-proclaimed king of IRL streaming is now a global example of what happens when you take shock content too far. So, how did a kid with a camera become one of the most hated streamers on the planet? And how did his downfall spiral so fast that he now faces years behind bars? Let's break it down. Johnny Somali wasn't always a headline. He started off as just another aspiring creator from Ohio, filming with a cheap GoPro and hoping someone somewhere would care. His early videos were bland, almost invisible. No personality, no hook. Just another face in the endless sea of YouTube uploads. But Johnny wasn't patient. He wasn't interested in the slow grind. So he looked at the biggest streamers who thrived on chaos. Ice Poseidon, Jack Doherty, the whole IRL shock playbook, and decided that was his way in. The formula was simple: interrupt strangers, yell into cameras, and make the most disruptive content possible. At first, it was small stunts. Then it escalated. The more offensive he became, the more viewers tuned in. Suddenly, harassment wasn't just part of his act, it was the act. And once Johnny realized outrage translated into donations, he never looked back. Here's the problem with building a career on controversy. Eventually, the only way to stay relevant is to get worse. And Johnny Somali leaned all the way in. He heckled people in the streets. He insulted religious landmarks. He mocked national tragedies. His streams were no longer content. They were a highlight reel of disrespect. And every time, the pattern repeated. People got angry, clips went viral, and Johnny's wallet got fatter. His smirk to the camera became his signature, as if to say, "You can't stop me." But the world was paying attention, and sooner or later, one country was going to say, "Enough." South Korea was the first real breaking point. Johnny's antics there weren't just edgy, they were cruel. He defaced monuments that honored victims of wartime atrocities. He made inappropriate comments about young girls. He taunted locals on the street as if humiliation was entertainment. The backlash was unlike anything he'd faced before. South Koreans didn't just condemn him online, they went after him in real life. His gear was stolen, he was physically confronted. A bounty was even offered for information on his whereabouts. For the first time, Johnny wasn't in control of the narrative.
Trying to get out of this case, man. That's the only reason I'm being charged, is because I touched that statue. If I never touched that statue, I promise you, none of these charges would have happened, guys, at all. I feel like what I did still is not illegal. Obviously, it hurt people. I feel like when I tell a joke or I say some shit on my stream, it's just for me and my audience. Like, it's not supposed to, like, I feel like in some way I'm trying to be like a comedian in a way.
He was hiding, running, streaming in fear. But instead of seeing it as a wake-up call, Johnny saw it as fuel. And that arrogance would lead him straight into disaster. If South Korea was the crack, Japan was the shattering. On his very first day in Tokyo, Johnny jumped on a rush hour train and started screaming nonsense. The patience of the Japanese public snapped. A Korean-American passenger confronted him on camera, and the clip exploded across social media. From there, Johnny spiraled. He played missile alert sirens inside restaurants, a sound tied to North Korea's real-life threats. He mocked Japanese traditions, insulted pedestrians, and treated the country like a prop.
I don't know what's happening. Where's exit? Take me out. I want to leave this park. But I pay money. I pay money. But security said I can make a video, YouTube video, okay. Now YouTube is not okay? Because I'm...
The reaction was swift. Japanese citizens weren't just angry, they were humiliated that a foreigner could act this way. Johnny went from annoying tourist to a full-blown national embarrassment. Authorities arrested him for obstruction of business, fined him, and dropped the real bombshell: a permanent deportation and lifetime ban. For a man whose content depended on traveling to stir chaos, losing Japan wasn't just punishment, it was career suicide. Back in the US, Johnny could have stayed quiet, but quiet doesn't bring in donations. So he fell back into the same routine. He started targeting Asian American neighborhoods, he hurled racist slurs, he mocked Muslim women, he shoved cameras in strangers' faces, desperate for reactions. But this time, it wasn't just angry locals watching, the FBI was. In November 2023, Johnny Somali was arrested in Las Vegas on federal charges: harassment, ethnic discrimination, and community disruption. His bail? Denied. His gear? Seized. For the first time in his career, Johnny couldn't just start another stream and move on. And if that wasn't enough, the clips that resurfaced while he sat in detention painted an even darker picture. Deepfake harassment of female streamers, verbal abuse of police officers, disturbing comments about minors. The more people dug, the worse it looked. He wasn't a rebel anymore. He was radioactive. And then came the kicker. Even though Johnny was locked up in the US, his legal troubles in South Korea were still waiting. He's banned from leaving until his trial in August 2025, meaning even if he dodges US prison time, he's still trapped in a legal nightmare abroad.
Remember, the default was about 2 years? Now it's 4. The aggravated minimum, which I think is very possible, is 8 years and 4.5 months. Think about that, people. A minimum of 8 years and 4.5 months. That cannot be more wonderful. That cannot be more apt punishment for a Johnny Somali if he gets 8 years in a Korean prison. Of course, the maximum has not changed from 12. That's the cap, statutory cap, so they can't go beyond 12. So I do think it is very realistic at this point to say Johnny Somali is looking anywhere between 4 to 12 years, particularly to say 8 years. My guess is now around the minimum, so 8 years and 4.5 months. I think this is my guess in terms of categories. I don't think he's going to get the max. I don't think he's going to get default. I think this is where he'll land, but of course, it is completely reasonable for him to get this as well.
Johnny Somali's downfall isn't just about one man. It's about a streaming culture that rewards shock until the shock becomes criminal. For years, IRL streamers have blurred the line between entertainment and harassment. But Johnny wasn't blurring the line anymore. He bulldozed it. And now governments are noticing. Countries are exploring ways to regulate streamers who cause chaos on foreign soil. Laws on deepfakes are being tightened. Talk of digital passports, online behavior tied to international travel, is getting louder. Johnny thought he was untouchable, but his case might be the blueprint for how the world cracks down on this kind of content. So, where is Johnny Somali now? Not in a mansion, not live streaming on a street corner, not cashing in donations. He's sitting in detention, awaiting trial, banned from the platforms that made him famous, despised in countries he once treated like playgrounds, and looking at years of lost freedom. The kid who dreamed of being seen ended up being infamous for all the wrong reasons. His rise was fast, but his fall, even faster. And here's the hard truth: there's no redemption arc left. Not when your name is synonymous with harassment, bans, and criminal charges. So maybe this is the legacy Johnny Somali leaves behind, not as a pioneer of streaming, but as a cautionary tale. Proof that the internet can make you famous, but the real world can end you just as quickly. Because when the cameras turn off and the courts turn on, the excuse of "it's just content" doesn't work anymore. So what do you think? Did Johnny dig his own grave, or did the platforms and audiences that cheered him on help create the monster?